All right, I am Madison Lee. I am the head of RF engineering at Epirus. We're located in Los Angeles, and I was invited here today to talk about Keysight design data design management and how we've used it in our systems. This right here is Leonidas. This is our core product right now. It's a very large electronically steered phased array. We are a transmit-only system, and we define this system as an effector. There are a few different variations that I will also go through in our product lineup, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the story of Epirus and why we reached out to Keysight to find a tool, and all of the tools that we use actually from them that help us build systems like this. So high energy microwaves are the systems that we design, which a lot of people call high power, something around 5 watts. I would multiply that by 1,000 before you start talking about our system. So this is a system that was actually the first of its kind. So our founders originally noticed that high energy microwaves can have a very strong effect on other systems. We don't always know what that system is. So it's a fun and unique challenge for us to design iteratively and also very quickly. Because this system does not exist, it has no requirements. So we get to decide what they are. We get to tell our customer, this is what you need to be effective against this target. And this specific system has utilized high power gallium nitride transistors. So our original founders came up with a board called Smart Power, and that very uniquely biases our GaN transistors in this system. That makes them very efficient and a lot easier to control. So our entire system is software design. We write all the software, and my team, the RF team, designs all of the RF amplifiers that go into this chain. Like I was telling someone right before this talk, we have about 6 stages of amplification. That is a lot of GaN transistors. These transistors are also scalable into any kind of array. So this is our largest system, but I will show you a smaller one. And systems like this are typically designed from a larger company, maybe over 5 years, 5 or 10 years. That's about how long it takes to get a system into your customer's hands. We did this in 1 year. This system and every system that we've done has been exactly 1 year building after the designer releases it. So we're trying to go very fast, and that is why our first RF engineer, when they called Keysight and said, I need ADS, I need to design my system, they weren't thinking about version control. And it was only one engineer, so they weren't thinking about how am I going to share this with new people once they join the team, like myself. And so when I joined, I don't think any other companies or tools that I've used for RF design software has a very efficient version control system. So you maybe use GitHub for Altium or something, anything else. Most things are going through GitHub, but something like an electromagnetics tool does not have the same integration that you would normally use. And I think it's pretty new. And so I'm glad that Keysight is now applying that and came up with a way for us to track these kinds of designs. This is our full product lineup. So you can see Leonidas, the one on the first page, is all the way over there. So this is actually one of our larger systems, but that same form factor is also on Leonidas Mobile. And then this is the smaller one that I was talking about. So this one is on contract with the Army, and then this system is going to the Navy. So depending on the customer, we have a very different scalable approach, but getting designs like this out very quickly is obviously very difficult. And you can see the LRAM at the very beginning. It's very tiny. It's a line replaceable amplifier module. And inside of that is where all of our RF amplifiers live. And each one of those is designed in ADS. So we have the discrete transistors custom made for us, and then we design the amplifier modules around them so that they can fit into a form factor that is very easy to replace. And if we need to upgrade that whole system, they don't throw Leonidas in the trash and then buy a new one. They can just pull all of the ORMs out and then replace them with the new module. So that is kind of how we are trying to pitch our business so that it can be a lot more user-friendly and adaptable to whatever the next need is. And then this very large system is called Leonidas XR, which is our extended range system. So if you have one or multiple Leonidases, you can pair it with a large reflector array, and that is what this system is. This will also have reconfigurable polarization as well. So there's our main product lineup for Leonidas systems. But since we do have that smart power bias board I talked about earlier. These are not the limitations of what we can work on. So we are also working on tactical radios. Anything that uses high power GaN, we can optimize the bias network for them so that we can make it more efficient and have further range than current systems. So this should hopefully answer the question about what is Epirus. We'll now talk about our RF design team that has grown a lot over the time that I've been there. And now that we have more engineers and more designs, we are trying to be smart about how we iterate. And a lot of the first problems that we had were storage. For the first 4 years, some designers were using ADS, maybe not the way it was intended, but they decided to save all of their work from every amplifier they worked on in one workspace, which I hope no one else does, but it's not a good way to use ADS. However, this makes it very difficult whenever you do try to share that file with someone else. And we didn't have them in a shared repository, so when you go to try and archive a large file like that from user error and improper use of ADS, but trying to share a file like that becomes very difficult. So that was one of the hurdles we encountered originally when looking for a way to get version control for ourselves. So, and what version control would solve. And then the latest version of our design files, whenever we release the design, like I said, we design very quickly, so we go back and forth with our layout engineers and the RF designers. So there's sometimes a tiny change that comes from layout, and then we have to iterate that back. And making sure that we actually know, okay, which cell was the last one that I was editing before I gave it to the layout engineer. You have to hopefully name it something creative. But if you forget to do that, it is very hard for another engineer to come into your workspace and see that. So now that we have version control, and even yesterday I was talking to Sujit and Pedro, and they reminded me of all of the flags you can put. And so you can actually label them, layout, this is the one I gave to layout, this is the one that made it into fab. And those are very helpful tools for us to use now. And then also for onboarding. For all of our new hires coming in, including myself, I had no visibility into the designs that were in the system or how many designs we had. I had no idea. With Keysight DDM or SOS, we now have all team members have immediate access to every single project. So like I showed earlier, our entire product line has its own fun names, Leonidas XR or Leonidas Mobile, and now that whenever a new team member comes in, they can look into SOS and it shows them every single product that we have and which RF design files are attached to them, so that each member can pull the one that they are trying to work on, or if they just want to go look at it, they can see anyone's design files. They can see which ones are actively being worked on or which ones that they are going to work on. And then also for version control, which is incredibly important because, I mean, I do this all the time. I will iterate through optimizing a matching network, and I think, oh, I can get it a tiny bit better. And the next time I do it, I'm like, nope, that actually made it worse. I want to go back 10 versions because that was actually the best one. And so this is something that is now enabled with Keysight DDM. We can actually go back and you can see the timestamp of, oh, I remember that it was like yesterday around noon is the design that I wanted, and I can go grab that one. It definitely saves us a lot of time. And then also for storage, we have a server dedicated to SOS that now all of our files live there, and they're also backed up from our own IT services that we already have enabled, and now we are able to link it to that. So designs won't get lost, and they won't ever be taking over all of the memory on one engineer's computer because they're only going to be pulling the ones that they're working on, which is also incredibly valuable. It was funny yesterday, Sujit, I had to remind him that he actually not only helped us install SOS early this year, he gave us a really fun framework for how we were going to talk about SOS internally to a team that was not used to having version control. A lot of RF engineers are actually against version control, but I've been pushing it. And I think teaching version control to engineers that maybe have never been exposed to it, trying to give them a visual of how to think about it and how we're going to store things is helpful. And so Sujit had told me, oh, you should decide your services and your projects it can be like a car, like you have a Honda, and then each of your projects is like Civic, and then whatever other models of Hondas there are. I'm not a Honda owner, so I'm not sure what the other ones are, but we can do the same thing for our Leonidas systems. So we have our Leonidas, which is like our brand, and then we have Pod, and then we have Expeditionary, XR, and Mobile, and that's kind of how we've defined it as a framework for us to think about of how we want to grow and extend without making it unorganized. So it's a lot more organized for us internally to think about it, and that's how we applied it to Epirus, which has really helped the team understand what we're doing with version control and also how to go find things. And that was something that I hadn't even thought of, and Sujit had offered that whenever he was originally getting us set up. I was just like, this is amazing. We have version control. This is the best thing that's ever happened. And then they also provided a framework for us to think about it internally, and that was really helpful for us and made it a lot easier to break to my team and help getting them on board with what version control is going to look like for us.